My Weirder-est School, Book Number 10. Mr. Ott is a Crackpot. Written by Dan Gutman. Pictures by Jim Pelot. Chapter 4. The Fundamentals. Mr. Ott said to meet him in our playground after school. When the dismissal bell rang, he was out there waiting for us. He had a bunch of bats, balls, gloves, and batting helmets. We sat around him on the grass. "How many of you youngsters have played ball before?" Mr. Ott asked. "I've played pee-wee football, but hardly any softball." Only Andrea raised her hand. She smiled the smile she smiles to let everybody know she did something nobody else did. "That's okay," said Mr. Ott. "I'll whip you kids into shape." "Is that legal?" I asked. "It's just an expression, Arlo," said Andrea. "Baseball is all about the number 3, Mr. Ott explained. You got 3 strikes and 3 outs. You got 9 players and 9 innings. 3 times 3 is 9. Man, this was sounding like a math lesson. "There's 90 feet between the bases," continued Mr. Ott. "That's 30 times 3. Blah, 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 blah." He went on like that for 1,100 minutes. I thought I was gonna die from old age. We had less than a week to get ready for our game. When were we gonna learn how to hit, throw, and catch? "Can we play ball already?" asked Michael. "First, you need to learn the fundamentals," replied Mr. Ott. "Fundamentals starts with F-U-N. Let's start by throwing and catching." Finally, he picked up a laundry bag from the grass, and you'll never believe what he pulled out of the bag. It was a turtle. "Ooh, I love turtles," said Andrea. "Good," said Mr. Ott. "Think fast." He threw the turtle up in the air. Andrea freaked out for a moment, and then she caught the turtle just before it hit the ground. "Good job," said Mr. Ott. "You caught the turtle with both hands." Shouldn't we play catch with a ball?" asked Michael. "No," barked Mr. Ott. "If you drop a ball, it doesn't matter, but nobody wants to drop a turtle." I guess that made sense in a weird way. Turtles are cool. One time we did turtle yoga at school. We had turtles climbing on our backs. You can read about it in a book called Ms. Jojo is a Yo-Yo. Mr. Ott told us to pair up so we could toss turtles back and forth. My turtle tossing partner was Neil. "Don't let your turtle hit the ground," Mr. Ott shouted as he watched us toss the turtles. "If you can catch a turtle, you can catch a ball." Andrea was the best turtle tosser, of course, but we were all pretty good because nobody wanted their turtle to hit the ground and get hurt. Mr. Ott said it was time for us to work on hitting. "Everybody grab a bat," he said. We all picked up bats. "Okay, put the knob end of the bat on your toe," said Mr. Ott, "and see if you can balance the bat on your foot." "What?" I tried to balance the bat on my foot. It was hard. The bat kept falling off. "What does this have to do with hitting a ball?" asked Alexia. "You need to have good balance to be a good hitter," said Mr. Ott. We balanced bats on our feet for 1,100 minutes. After a while, I got the hang of it. Andrea was the best bat balancer, of course. She could even balance a bat on her nose. "Now you're getting it," shouted Mr. Ott. He went to his car and took a weird-looking machine out of the trunk. He dragged it over to the field. "What's that?" asked Neil. "This is Robbie Robothrow," said Mr. Ott. "He's a mechanical pitcher." He set up Robbie Robothrow and loaded it with softballs. Then he turned it on. Robbie made some weird noises. Then a bunch of wheels spun around, and Robbie threw a softball right over the plate. It was cool. "Who wants to hit first?" asked Mr. Ott. Me, we all shouted. Well, everybody shouted me, except Emily. "I'm afraid," she said. "I don't want to get hit by the ball." "The ball should be afraid of getting hit by you," said Mr. Ott. "There's nothing to be worried about. Robbie only throws strikes. Go ahead, get into the batter's box, young lady." Emily picked up a bat and stepped into the batter's box. Mr. Ott turned on Robbie Robothrow. "Keep your eye on the ball," he shouted. "Won't that hurt?" I asked, but nobody laughed. Robbie threw a ball. Emily swung and missed. "You were a little late," Mr. Ott said. "Try again. I'll slow it down." Mr. Ott adjusted something on Robbie Robothrow. That's when the weirdest thing in the history of the world happened. Robbie threw a pitch. Well, that's not the weird part. Robbie is supposed to throw pitches. But then it threw another one, and another one, and another one. Softballs were flying at Emily, one after the other. Some of them went over the plate. Some of them went over Emily's head, or behind her, or right at her. "Watch out, Emily!" shouted Andrea. "Help!" Emily shouted as she dropped the bat and covered her head with her arms. "Robbie's out of control," shouted Michael. "Turn it off," shouted Ryan. "Do something, Mr. Ott," shouted Alexia. "I'm trying," shouted Mr. Ott. Robbie Robothrow was shooting softballs at Emily, rapid fire. Everybody was yelling and screaming and hooting and hollering and freaking out. Finally, Robbie Robothrow ran out of softballs. We all rushed over to Emily. She was crying and she had a bruise on her arm, but it looked like she was going to be okay. "Rub some dirt on it," said Mr. Ott. "You'll be fine." "Why do they call it softball?" Emily whimpered as we helped her up. "The ball isn't soft."